Hi everyone, today let's talk about Amazon. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So Amazon got a downgrade. Let's take a look at what they're talking about. So it closed lower 3% on Monday after the downgrade. They moved their price target from 225 down to 183, which is actually right around where it's at. But of course, you don't want to buy a stock at full value, so the stock is falling quite a bit from there. And we did talk about this a little bit in yesterday's video. Amazon not looking so great, but they are seeing increased competition from Walmart, which has had an amazing year when it comes to the stock, at least. They're also citing a reduced ad spend from these businesses, and they're also spending a lot of money on satellite broadband to attempt to compete with Starlink. And they also cite margin expansion. They say margin expansion is the key to Amazon's growth, and they're now expecting a more moderate expansion than previously. You can see it's popping a little bit pre-market, but we're still down in the 180s, 182 area from the close to this morning. And the price target they gave was 183, so it really only gives you a dollar potential. And then they cite another analyst giving it a 187 price target for next year, again saying that basically there's no upside potential, but there are a couple of analysts still looking at 20% rise to 220 for next year, so that's a little bit more of the consensus. Not everyone agrees on that lower target, but it seems like there's enough people that agree, especially with the selling that we saw yesterday. And then of course we can't forget about AWS. It generated $26.2 billion, and it did grow at 19%, revenues surging to 20% on advertising, so there's still some growth in it, but all of those did fall short of expectations. And finally here, the last thing they mention is that it had an amazing year last year, 42%. So it had a very, very powerful year. It's definitely expensive relative to where it was. And even with the growth story, like they mentioned, the growth is slowing, and growth is what you are paying for, at least to some degree. And then looking at the Amazon charts here, you can see we've been on this really powerful up run from December of 22 all the way to the peak here in July of 24. And since then, we had that big drop, the big move into the lows here from the beginning of August. We rallied up, established this trend line here, and now we're rejecting off of that trend line down over the last 3 weeks. So far, we're down about 3%, just like the article said for the Monday session. Momentum back to bearish on the weekly, RSI continuing to trend lower. It's back below the SMA based on the current price. And if we do get the follow through on this trend structure, there's a level here at around 160, and then below that is the level here. This is really just a parallel line from this top here, but if you do get the move down to that level and kind of create this down channel, the same one we've kind of been looking at on Microsoft, that would give you a price target all the way down around 149 and would give you that retest of the 200 SMA sitting down at 146.72. If we did get that move, that's about 17, 18, 19% lower potentially. So definitely could be a very powerful move if it follows through, very similar to this move here. That was about 23, 24% from top to bottom. So it's definitely done this before. It's certainly a possibility we get another push down into that zone. You would still have some support at the 55 EMA. You can see even on this previous move, touched that level and bounced up on that week. That is sitting at 168.68. And we're in this zone of consolidated EMAs and VWAP in there right now at 178.89 up to the 182.85 area. So we're definitely in a little bit of a zone of support. And there's a couple of levels to the downside, but right now this looks like a high, lower high, expecting a at least double bottom, maybe even a lower low. And then looking at it on the daily chart, not quite as clean, still selling off. You can see the gap up, gap down on Friday into the Monday. We talked about it yesterday. Got the 55 in there, the 200 in there. Again, huge gap into that Friday. The second big push down to that trend, and then we found a strong rally, bull flag, continuation, established the trend. Now we have to break back through these levels if it's going to do it. Daily 200 sitting there at 177.12. That's going to be an important level. If it holds that level, you're probably in good shape, but you can see momentum still bearish, RSI still bearish. Pretty much all of the metrics look pretty awful. You can see it's bounced about $1 in the pre-market this morning, but I don't expect that to last. I just think that's a little bit of a dead cat bounce off of the big down move yesterday. 3% is a pretty substantial move. And really what this looks like to me is a move down, retest, rejection, continuation lower. So I would expect more selling off of this into today's price action. And then jumping back down here to the 4-hour chart, I threw my levels back on here. The one I'm watching is 181.41. Technically we closed below that yesterday, so you should expect that to continue to break, but you got the 200 even here on the 4-hour chart, sitting in that same zone, 179.05. Didn't quite touch it yesterday. I thought that we might, but we didn't. You can see this is still a downtrend, 21 above VWAP, 55 above the 21. So you got a couple of stacked EMAs. We're currently retesting that 144 EMA at 182.03. So short term, still very much a downtrend. We did find a little bit of a bounce on RSI. You can see here you had a low and a slightly higher low. Interesting to see that in there, especially with price. You can see price was higher, but RSI was lower, and now you got price lower with a little bit stronger RSI. So definitely a little bit of divergence happening there. Maybe this is a downward wedge potentially, and then we're going to find a little bit of a bounce, retest, and then continuation. Certainly a possibility, but we haven't seen any follow through on that structure quite yet. And then moving over here to the Tasty charts, you can see these ATR bands are basically flat, maybe slightly curving to the downside. So your best case scenario is a consolidation right now. Couldn't get to the upper band, tested that lowest band here on that 5 August week. Now we're establishing a lower high, continuation lower, right off of that first ATR band to the upside. So that would be your resistance, 193.97. You can also see bearish conditions here on the weekly chart. Your next support would be 177.12 based off this chart. And then you have the 55 EMA sitting below it, 169.07. So pretty much in the same region we saw on the other charts. And then looking at that daily chart, technically on the daily chart, we're still in bullish conditions. Your support is sitting there at 179.02. So critical zone, just like we talked about, 179, important level. You also got the 144 EMA there at 178.29 here on the daily chart. And you can see the ATR bands on the daily chart are still in a decent structure. So if it's going to hold, it really needs to do it here. If it breaks here, then it's going to push to the lowest band at 173.68. And then that's probably going to start these ATR bands starting to curve to the downside. So you can see how that worked before. Hit the upper band, we were trending higher. As this rolled down, you can see those ATR bands start to roll to the downside. And then you got the rejection, continuation lower. So if this pushes to the lowest band, catches a bounce, lower high setup, then that could be pretty catastrophic from there. Timing is always the hard part, but we're waiting to see if this zone is going to hold. Definitely important over the next couple days. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of Amazon. Is the downgrade warranted, or do you think Amazon is going to bounce from here and continue higher up into the 220s? Definitely let me know, and like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.